Okay, the stream is starting up. Okay, Dr. Khanani, we are live. I have shut off my video. The start time is officially 8:45, and I can see Dr. Rizvi has joined us. So whenever you're ready, please proceed.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's my great honor that I've been asked to share my reflections on one of the greatest days in Islam, which is the day of Arafah, the 9th day of the blessed month of Dhul Hijjah. So I'll try to share some of my own personal reflections, having been to Hajj on 2 occasions by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and based upon some of the readings that I have done. So I'll start with the verse from the Quran where the word Arafat has been mentioned, so that it gives me like a starting point. So it occurs in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 198. This part of Surah Al-Baqarah also gives us some ahkam related to Hajj, and some of the other ahkam also occur in the surah named after Hajj, Surah Al-Hajj. So بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ليس عليكم جناح أن تبتغوا فضلا من ربكم فإذا أفضتم من عرفات. So the word Arafat occurs in the Quran. فإذا أفضتم من عرفات فاذكروا الله عند المشعر الحرام. المشعر الحرام is also known as Muzdalifah. واذكروه كما هداكم وإن كنتم من قبله لمن الضالين. Let me just give you a translation, and this translation is from Muhammad Asad. His commentary is something that I really value a lot, and I refer to it almost on a weekly basis for my tafsir halaqah. However, you will be committing no sin if during the pilgrimage you seek to obtain any bounty from your sustainer. And when you surge downward in multitudes, this is a very idiomatic and very informative and explanatory translation of Afastum. From Arafat, remember Allah at the holy place, and remember Him as the one who guided you after you had indeed been lost on your way. To me, this verse combines both Deen and Dunya, and Islam's emphasis that it is not a religion which is simply a cult, combination, or a bunch of rituals to be performed individually as well as in groups or in congregation, and spending most of your working hours, daily hours in the masjid. It's a complete code of life which covers both the dunya and the deen. So there is, in my mind, there is no separation between deen and dunya. So trading while in the state of ihram, as Muhammad Abdu points out in his Tafsir Al-Manar, that the endeavor to obtain any bounty from your sustainer, fadl, implies God consciousness, which is another term for taqwa, and therefore constitutes a kind of worship, provided, of course, that this endeavor does not conflict with any other more prominent religious requirement. There was this taboo in the Jahiliyyah period that when a person sets out to perform Hajj, he will have nothing worldly to do. He cannot engage in any business. Islam changed this mindset by calling the earning of livelihood as a fadl from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an extra blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it itself becomes a kind of worship because it is acting upon the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who said that there is no sin, there is no harm upon you if you perform this, so long as you remain conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so long as your business, your trade, or any other kind of endeavor does not conflict with any of the prescribed rites of Hajj. Now, Yom Arafah is a composite word composed of Yom and Arafah. So we have to look at the linguistic implications of this phrase. What's the meaning of the word Yom and what's the meaning of the word Arafah? If we look at it, Yom is time. It's a day, and we'll explain it even further, inshallah. And Arafat is a place. So to my simple mind, Yom Arafah is an event where both time and space come together. The time, the day, is blessed, It has been sanctified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the place or space, Arafat, is likewise blessed and sanctified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it carries with it the implications of sanctity of both time and place as described by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the day is important and the place is also important. However, those who are not on Hajj can still share in the sacredness and blessing of this day, even if they are not in the place, which is Arafat. And we'll talk about it briefly as well. So if we look at the concept of Yom, the plural of which is Ayyam in Quran, it carries several different meanings. First is simply a 24-hour period. So Lail is night from the sunset to the next day's dawn, and Nahar is the period, part of 24-hour period from the rise of the sun to the setting of the sun. Yom includes both day and night. So it's a 24-hour period in our terminology. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word Yom in this context at several places in the Quran. And I will just mention only a few verses. The first, a very famous verse, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinukum, that today I have completed your deen for you. And this is the day of the Hajj. Second is Wasalamun alayhi yawma wulida wa yawma yamut, that peace upon him the day he was born and the day he will die, which is about Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. So a day. Surah Al-Baqarah, qalu la taqata lana al-yawma bi jaluta wa junudihi, that the people who were up against Jalut simply expressed their helplessness that today, which means the day of the war, there is no power. We feel totally helpless in comparison with Jalut, in front of Jalut and his armies. And in Surah Tawbah, laqad nasarakumullahu fi mawtina kathiratin wa yawma Hunain. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Muslims of the trouble they faced on the day of the Battle of Hunain. Hunain is again a place, and Yom is the day of the war, which is not necessarily a 24-hour period, but a time period during which the fighting took place. It can also imply a time period that is inconceivable by human mind, a period, an eon, an event, or a historical context. If we read the earlier books of Arab history, we find this term Ayyamul Arab, the days of the Arab, which actually refers to the historical events which occurred, which were faced by the Arabs during their long history. A yom or a day in Quran can also be equal to 1,000 years or even 50,000 years. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth fi sittati ayyam, in 6 days. And again, there the day doesn't mean a 24-hour period. It's simply a time period that is inconceivable by human mind. It may be centuries, it could be millennia, or it could be any infinite time. Because the samawat and the earth, as we know from the Quran, this cosmos is still in a phase of evolution. It is ever expanding by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another meaning given by Ar-Razi is az-zaman al-kharij anil mafhum al-maddi. That it refers, the word yom, the plural of which is ayam, refers to a period which cannot be described in material terms. Its mafhum, its understanding is not material. It's something different. And he gives several examples of it. Wal yawm al-akhir, in the day of judgment. Wa yawm al-qiyamah, azab yawmin azim, yawma yashuruhum jami'a, yawma yunfakhu fi sur, yawm al-bas, yawm al-hasra, yawma tashhadu alayhim alsinatuhum, yawma tatwi sama. Here in these verses, the word yawm has been qualified with several descriptive terms. The yawm al-akhir, the last day, the day of qiyamah, the punishment of the great day, the day when all of them will be gathered collectively, the day in which trumpet will be blown, the day of resurrection, the day of utter regret, the day on which their own tongues will be testifying against them, and the day when the skies will be rolled over. So again, this doesn't necessarily represent a 12-hour period or a 24-hour period, but an eon, a period of time, a phase of time that with our limited human intellect, we are unable to fathom. Now, the day of Arafah, as I mentioned, the Yom Arafah implies both time and space continuum. And we have to understand it in this sense if we are not actually in Arafat. So that day is the gathering of all pilgrims on the plain of Arafah, which is east of Makkah, and it takes place on the 9th of Zulhijjah, and it constitutes the climax of the pilgrimage. The entire process of Al-Hajj that begins with arrival in Makkah, making tawaf, performing the Umrah, performing the Sa'i, staying in Mina, all reach their climax on this particular day. And as the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, Al-Hajju Arafah. The Hajj is completed on the day of Arafah once you reach the plain of Arafah. And he also mentioned, فَمَنْ أَدْرَكَ عَرَفَ بَلَيْلٍ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَطْلَعَ الْفَجْرِ فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ الْحَجْ. And it's kind of an important hadith. It doesn't usually happen, but say, for example, somebody is traveling and he is not able to reach Arafah before the sunset on the ninth day of Zulhijjah, but he's able to reach there after the sunset, and then he's able to spend part of the night in Muzdalifah. His Hajj is still valid. And this did occur to one Sahabi during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. The pilgrims are required to remain until sunset on that plain. So once a person reaches the plain of Arafat, he is not allowed to leave before sunset under any circumstance. And they gather below the hillock known as Jabal al-Rahmah, the Mount of Grace or Mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's simply a symbolic act meant to bring to mind that ultimate gathering on Resurrection Day, the Yawm al-Qiyamah, as I mentioned, when every soul will await Allah's judgment. Immediately after sunset, the multitudes of pilgrims move back in the direction of Makkah. Basically, they pass through the valley of Muzdalifah. And this is the Min Haysa Afidun Nas. Stopping overnight at a place called Muzdalifah, also known as Al-Mash'ar al-Haram, the holy place, which is referred to in the next clause of this sentence from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Arafat is the plural of the word Arafah, and it is the 9th day of the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah is known as the Yawm al-Tarwiyah, which is the day on when the Hujjaj, the intending Hujjaj, all leave for Mina. And Tarwiyah has several meanings. The most common meaning is this, the day when Arabs used to take their camels to drink water in anticipation of their journey ahead. And the 9th day is known as the Yawm Arafah, and it is also a special place which is known as Arafat. The day of Arafah has 10 different names, 5 of which are very common and they are mentioned in the Quran as well. So it's known as Yawm Arafah. It is also known as Iyasul Kuffar min Din al-Islam. It is the day when the Kuffar have lost their hopes completely that the Muslims will ever turn back to the period of Jahiliyyah and leave their Islam. It is also known as Yawma Ikmaluddin, the day on which our deen has been perfected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another name is Yawma Itmamun Ni'mah. It is the day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed his ni'mah upon us, and also known as Yawmur Ridwan, the day of Allah's pleasure. And all of these are actually combined in a very famous verse from Surah Al-Ma'idah, Al-Yawma Ya'isa alladhina kafaru min dinikum fala takhshawhum wakhshawni Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam adina. So all of these names are actually derived from this verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. It is also known as Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar, Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar. And it is from Surah Tawbah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَذَانُ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ. It is a proclamation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to the people on the day of the great Hajj. Now, in the Indian Pakistani culture, Hajjul Akbar is considered to be a Hajj that falls on the day of Friday. But actually, this is not the intended meaning in the Quran. And in Islam, Al-Hajjul Asghar refers to Umrah, and Al-Hajjul Akbar refers to the Hajj as we know it. And as far as the word Arafah is concerned, there are at least 8 different explanations that I've read in different tafasir. The most common one is the one that I'm going to mention, that it is the day when Adam and Hawa alayhi salatu wasalam, who were sent down from the Jannah to this world by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they met each other on that day at that particular place. So they recognize each other. So Arafah, Ya'rifu, Arafah. to know each other, to recognize each other. Ali Shariati has written a very beautiful book. It's only about 90 or 91 pages. It has been translated into English and it is available for free download. Before I went for Hajj, I actually read parts of this book, and it's a very spiritually moving book written in beautiful language, or at least translated in beautiful English. So I will just read it for you instead of giving my own input here. He talks about this day. The descent from Kaaba to Arafat represents the beginning of man's creation. The time of man's creation was simultaneous to the creation of knowledge. The first spark of love emitted during the meeting of Adam and Hawa alayhim salam promoted their mutual understanding of one another. It was the first sign of knowledge. Adam knew his wife of the opposite sex, who was of the same origin and nature that he was from, which is basically the Quran saying, "Khalaqakum min nafsin wahida." As you can see, it is not to reside, but it is a short stop on your way traveling with the caravan. So we do not spend the entire night in Arafah. Along this path, you stop when they stop, and you start to move when they go from one stage to the other. So again, it's not an individual journey, it's a collective journey. We are there as individuals, but we are also part of a bigger humanity. At every stage you enter, stop for a short period and then move one stage. Since Mina is the last stage, you will stay there for 3 days. Remember, it is not the destination. When do you finish this journey? Where is the caravan's destination? Never and nowhere. So where are you going? The answer is to eternity, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the absolute. He is the eternal. Therefore, your journey is a movement toward the absolute beauty, the absolute knowledge, the absolute power, eternity and perfection. It is a restless and eternal movement. On this journey, Allah is not the destination, but He is the direction. For man, everything is temporary, changing, perishing, and dying. Yet, this eternal movement is continuous, and the direction is always there. So wherever you turn your face, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Al-Hajju Ashhurun Ma'lumat. Hajj is known days, 4 days. فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. So whoever makes it incumbent upon him to perform the Hajj, during the days of the Hajj, he should not be speaking indecently. He shouldn't be fighting with others. He should not be committing any acts of indecency or even sexual intercourse with his wife. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ. So here is the crux. Khair, good deeds, acts of goodness. So whatever acts of good deed or of goodness you perform, ya'lamahullah, Allah will know it. But tazawwadu. This is the important part as well, that you have this zada, you have this baggage with you, that you carry with you. But the best zad, فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى, is God consciousness, as we have mentioned earlier. وَاتَّقُونِ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And remain conscious of me, O people who have been given deep insight. So here in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has encapsulated for us that there are certain actions that must not be performed during the period of Hajj. But it also implies that people who are not going on Hajj, they can also be physically with the Hujjaj by remaining conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by avoiding certain acts that Hujjaj are not supposed to perform when they are in a state of ihram, and to do deeds of goodness, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows them, and beautify ourselves with this ornament of remaining God conscious all the time and standing only in fear of Him without fearing anybody, if we have the insight and the intellect. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala mentioned that قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما من أيام العمل الصالح فيها أحب إلى الله من هذه الأيام قالوا يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا الجهاد في سبيل الله قال ولا الجهاد في سبيل الله إلا رجل خرج بنفسه وماله فلم يرجع من ذلك بشيء. So this is a motivation for us to do acts of goodness. And we must remember that in the Quran, Iman and Amal Saleh, total belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in all the items as mentioned in the Quran and Hadith, and performing acts of goodness go hand in hand. And the best days to perform these good deeds, these good acts, are these 10 best days of the year, because no other action performed on and at any other time is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than these 10 days. The 10 most blessed nights are the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and the most blessed days for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are these 10 days of Zil Hajj through which we are passing. And the people were amazed when they listened to the Prophet ﷺ describing this, because in their own understanding, jihad in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the peak of Iman. It is the highest sacrifice that one can ever imagine. And the Prophet ﷺ said, not even jihad, except for a person who goes out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his own life and with his mal, and he doesn't come back, which means he becomes a shaheed. So obviously, shahadat has a greater status. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala also mentioned that ma min ayamin ahabba illallahi an yata'abbada lahu fiha min ashri dhil hajja ya'dilu siyama kulli yawmin minha bi siyami sana wa qiyama kulli laylatin minha bi qiyami laylatil qadr. And this even extends upon the previous hadith that we read, that in these 10 days that are the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fasting on every day is equal to the fasting of a year, and standing in a qiyam during these 10 nights is equal to the qiyam of Laylatul Qadr. Now, there are certain issues with this hadith, but I think the message is very clear that we should strive our best to perform acts of goodness during the days and nights of these 10 blessed days. Ubadah radiallahu ta'ala has also mentioned similar hadith, that Siyamu Ashral Adha Kula Yomin Mina Kashar, that fasting on these 10 days is like fasting a month for each day. It becomes 10 months then. And whoever fasts the day of Yom Tarwiyah, he gets the reward of fasting for 1 year. And whoever fasts on the day of Arafah, he gets the reward of 2 years actually. So you can count it. Anas radiallahu ta'ala has also mentioned that whoever fasts on the day of Yom Tarwiyah, which is the 8th day of Zil Hijjah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him the reward that Ayyub alayhi salatu wasalam earned by remaining patient on all the afflictions that he faced. And whoever fasts on the day of Arafah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him the reward of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. And we know what Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Isa bin Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam had to go through. Abu Qatada radiallahu ta'ala anhu also mentions from a hadith which is mentioned by Imam Muslim. It's a very authentic hadith, very famous hadith, that Siyamu Yawm Arafah ahtasibu allahi an yukaffira sanata allati qablahu wa sanata allati ba'dahu. Again, it supports the other hadith that we read, that if whoever fasts on the day of Arafah, I hope from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this will expiate his sins in the previous year and the next year. So again, 2 years of sins will be forgiven by just fasting on this day of Arafah. So we should try our best individually as well as with our families and our community to fast on this day. It is not recommended, it is actually forbidden for a Haji to fast on the 9th day of Dhul Hijjah. Now, so what can non-Hajis do on this day to share in the spiritual benefits of these 10 days and especially the day of Arafah? So an important aspect of the activities during these blessed days and especially the 9th day of Dhul Hijjah is to avoid ritualization. And this ties up with the concept that whatever acts of worship we perform, we should not perform them just as an act, just as a ritual act. It shouldn't come to us like this. There should be some conscious effort put into it, some thought process put into it. Why are we doing it? It is not that Allah needs it. And if we are doing it for our own benefit, what kind of benefit it gives us? And why is there a benefit in it? I'm not saying that everybody should start to go on this thought process. One should definitely try to do good deeds and fast on this day especially. But for those people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes as ulil albab, people who have been given insight, they must reflect that this is not simply any ritual. And this applies to any sincere act that we do in this life, but especially for fasting on this day, we must make sure that we keep full attention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, educate ourselves of the significance of this action, and not just to continue any ongoing tradition. We should avoid excessive food or food if we are fasting, avoid drink, useless activities. There's nothing wrong in going to work on that day. We shouldn't take time. We can take time off if we want to, but we can still work and fast both at the same time. And we must focus on our relationship with our Rabb for at least one day. Seems like an extremely good bargain in return for 2 years of forgiveness, the year before and the year to come. May Allah give us the life for that. We should make a lot of zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can make any dua, any zikr, la ilaha illallah, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh, alhamdulillah, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah al-azim. But the Prophet ﷺ has a very special dua for this day. And he said, the khairu ma qulta ana wa nabiyuna min qabli. The best dua that I say and the Anbiya before me said is, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. So we should try to memorize, or if we cannot memorize, we should have it in front of us, and we should try to recite it as much as we can, driving back and forth the work, back from the work and back from the work, after the 5 daily prayers, or just a few minutes before breaking the fast. We should gather even on the dinner table with our family and try to recite it in group as well. Recitation of the Holy Quran, listening to the recitation of the Holy Quran by good Qari, reading some part of tafsir, greeting our family, neighbors, and friends, visiting them, calling them, especially if they are overseas or even when they are here, just a text message, email, whatever way we want to connect them with. We should do some voluntary work in the community, be it planting a tree, be it cleaning a street, or just going out and greeting people on the street, spending some time with nature, extremely important. We should try to arrange some programs in our local masajid. We should come with our family. This will be a good opportunity to participate in cleaning the masjid. The next day there will be Eid prayer, so cleaning is important. Any repair that needs, and you have the expertise, the ability to do that, please do that. If possible, arrange for a talk or a lecture by a visiting scholar or a local person, especially youth. Recite the Quran as much as you can. Study a chapter from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ individually or in the form of a group. Study some ahadith. Break your fast together. And do not leave right after the fast and prayer, but clean the masjid for the Eid prayers. Do not just dump this responsibility on the masjid officials. I will end this talk by some of the duas that are mentioned by our scholars. We said on this particular day, but they can be done even today. So I'll just make this dua and you can say Ameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma lakal hamd kallazi naqulu wa khairan mimma naqul. Allahumma laka salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati wa ilayka ma'abi wa laka rabbi turasi. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr wa ghaswati as-sadr wa shata'at al-amr. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min sharri ma yujiu bihi ar-rih. Allahumma atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhab an-nar. Allahumma inni zalamtu nafsi zulman kathiran wa la yaghfiru dhunuba illa ant. Allahumma ighfir li maghfiratan min indika warhamni rahmatan as'adu biha fid darin wa tub alayya tawbatan nasuha. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم انقلني من ذل المعصية إلى عز الطاعة وأكفني بجلالك عن حرامك واغنني بفضلك عمن سواك ونور قلبي وقبري واغفر لي من الشر كله واجمع لي الخير. اللهم إني أسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم يسرني لليسرى وجنبني الأسرى وارزقني طاعتك وارزقني طاعتك ما أبقيتني. أستودعك مني ومن أحبابي والمسلمين أدياننا وأماناتنا وخواتم أعمالنا وأقوالنا وأبداننا وجميع ما أنعمت به علينا. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Dr. Khimani. Our usual tradition is to have people ask any questions that they may have. So in order to do that, if you could just raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you could ask your question if you have anything. It doesn't seem like there are any questions. So with that, Dr. Khimani, thank you so much for this amazing lecture. It's always awesome to hear from you. The depth that you go into it really benefits us a lot. So thank you very much,
Jazakallah
and
khairan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.